Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Off the Post podcast. I'm your host, Cade Krakus. It's week 7 that has come and gone. We're moving into week 8, and man, what a week 7 was. A lot of really big wins that helped push teams up the ladder and get their spot in the playoff picture from where we stand right now. A reminder, we're over halfway through the season, so teams are really trying to muscle it out until the end. Remember, top 4 in each division will make the playoffs. The Northwest Division, all the teams make it, so they don't have to worry too much just about that seeding. So stay tuned. We're going to cover our standings, our Golden Boot races, and we have a special interview with Ohio City SC, their women's division side. So stay tuned for all that coming up here soon on the Off the Post podcast. We interrupt this episode of the NOSL Off the Post podcast to remind you that the official 2025 sponsor of the NOSL is Alanovus Corp. A big thank you to Alanovus Corp in all that you do. The NOSL and Alanovus Corp, creating impact, building community, and bringing the game to life. Let's look at our standings here for week 7. Looking at Ohio City SC, they're atop the table in the men's first division with 19 points, a 6-1 record with a plus 27 goal differential. A reminder that the top 4 teams make the playoffs, so it'll be Ohio City SC, Mansfield Liederkranz, Delaware Rising, and Greater Columbus with where we stand right now. Those are the top 4 spots. Then you look to 5 and 6, 2 teams trying to squeak their way in as the season comes towards its ending point. Ashland United and Worcester FC sit with 10 points apiece in the 5 and 6 spots. You look at that 3-1-2 record for Ashland United, with Worcester FC behind it, a 3-1-3 record. Then moving to 7, 8, 9, and 10, Susserfuss, Belvarin, Stark County United, Twinsburg United, and Mahoning Trumbull United round out the rest of the list. Looking at our men's second division now, taking a look at this Group A to begin. Akron United is flying right now at 16 points in that number 1 spot, but AFC Kent and Forest City FC are just behind with 12 and 10. And then you look at the number 4 spot with Raiders FC sitting in the number 4 position. In Group B, it is Paxos FC, who is also on a heater. 19 points for them, a plus 34 goal differential. That sits them at that number 1 spot in Group B, followed by Mansfield Liederkranz 2 in the number 2 spot, Black Clover FC in 3, and Amish Country United in 4. A reminder, the winner of each group makes the playoffs, and the next 2 highest point scorers make the playoffs as well. These teams looking to be promoted to that men's first division. Moving into our men's Northwest and women's divisions. In the men's Northwest division, it is all 4 teams that make the playoffs. It just depends on the seeding. With where we sit right now, Valentis Atletico would have the number 1 spot with 16 points. Firelands United just around the bend with 15 points. They have not gotten themselves a draw this year. That's one of the differences. That 5-0-2 record also sees them with a plus 1 goal differential. But the difference, Valentis Atletica plus 27 goal differential in that number 1 spot. AC Elite in 3rd, and FC Perrysburg in 4th. Moving to our women's division, this is where we see a big heated race towards the top 3 positions. Ohio City SC in the number 1 spot, Susserfuss Belvarin in the number 2 spot, and Delaware Rising in 3. That goes 18 points, 15 and 12 for those 3 teams. In Ohio City SC, a big factor for them, 25 is their goal differential right now. They've given up just 5 on the season, 3 in wins and 2 in their only loss to Susserfuss Belvarin. Then moving down to 4, 5, and 6, it's Panthers FC, Twinsburg United, and Mansfield Liederkranz. That's a look at our standings for the men's first, the men's second, and the men's Northwest division, followed by the women's division. Stay tuned. Coming up here on the Off the Post podcast, we've got much more. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Off the Post podcast. I'm your host, Cade Krakus, and welcome back. It's now time for our interview segment. I'm joined alongside Peyton Burns. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, of course. It's awesome to have you on. And first of all, as well, it's our first representation of the women's teams in the NOSL here joining the podcast for the interview side of things. So for yourself, how important is it to get out here and showcase what the women's side has had to offer this year?
Oh, gosh. First of all, what an honor to be the first woman showcased on the podcast. That's really great. Thank you.
Yeah.
But as far as, this season and everything that's been going, we've been doing a really great job. The expectations were high at the beginning, and I think we're sort of meeting them here throughout the season.
Yeah, you guys have 6 wins as well, and that's good enough for 18 total points. You got a 12 plus 25 goal differential. I mean, you guys are rocking right now. What's really led to the success?
Plus 25. That's really great to hear. I mean, as the goalkeeper, especially, that's very great to
for
hear.
Sure.
Obviously that's taken from goals scored, and we have some really stellar offense up top. Our new forward Hallie, we knew as soon as she showed up to tryouts, we kind of looked at each other and went, "Yeah, she's dope. this is it." We had Lydia up front with a few goals. We've got Lexi Gomez, who just scored a hat trick in our last game, which was really exciting. So our offensive threat is pretty heavy, and that's not to leave out our defensive end. I'm very grateful for the defense who makes my job significantly easier in the goal.
For sure.
I'll say personally, I haven't had too tough of a season because my defense has been so great. So I think that definitely leads to the goal differential there. But yeah, I think just we've been building as a team for 3 years. We've been doing this for, this is our 3rd year in, and we're kind of getting the hang of it now, and we're really starting to mesh with one another now that we're a little over halfway through the season. So yeah, things are going up.
Yeah, we have to talk about your play specifically too. I mean, if you look at it, you've only given up 3 goals the whole year. It was 1 against Mansfield Liederkranz, 1 against Panthers, and then you take a look at the other one. It came against Delaware Rising. You've been on a heater this year in between the pipes, and you talked about it too. I mean, obviously having a great defense, but it all has to start from the back and then go forward. So for yourself, how do you keep yourself grounded game in and game out to continue to hold your team in games?
I think one of the things is it starts before the game. When you're getting ready that day, my Sundays are soccer Sundays now. That's kind of how it goes. And, the prep starts in the morning. I show up on time, get there a little early, leave enough time to chat with my team a little bit before the game about things that aren't even game related, just get on the human level of everybody. But then as far as getting into the actual game, I think one of the things I do to stay really grounded is I am constantly talking. And whether people hear me or not, that's up to interpretation. But I'm constantly chirping back there, whether it's man on, turn, get the ball away. So, I mean, I try to keep a solid distance from my defenders to stay involved in the game. And, with such a heavy offense, it probably it would be easy to sort of lose train of thought in the middle of the game, but I think the communication between me and staying present really helps keep me grounded.
Yeah. And I think a big thing for you guys too down the back half of the year is keeping that team chemistry high, especially with that heated race towards the top of the table against Susserfuss. So, I mean, you take a look at that, you guys have a chance to really make a statement in the playoffs and in the postseason. What's kind of the mindset as you turn towards the back half of the year?
I will start by mentioning that our first game this season against Susserfuss was the first regular season game we've ever lost since we've been established as a women's team. So that's not bad. Kudos to my team there.
For sure.
2.5 seasons without an L. And, we wrapped up that Susserfuss game. We only had, 1 sub. And we kind of looked at each other after the game and we went, okay, it was our first L. We don't love it, but we're not mad about it because Susserfuss, I mean, they've got a great squad. They've got a lot of talent on that team. And I think we were able to take that game, look at it, learn from it, and really be ready to take them on again.
For sure.
But I mean, we still have a few other really challenging games. We still haven't seen Twinsburg yet, so there's a team that we haven't even seen yet halfway through the season. So I think at this point, it's just keep the expectations high, keep showing up to practices, keep meeting our goals and stay in it until the end. We want to be in the final this year again,
sure.
And actually take it home this year.
Yeah. You talked about how the dominance of Ohio City SC over the past couple of seasons, and you've been heavily a part of instrumenting that success and being a leader on the team. How important is it for the NOSL and women's soccer as a whole to continue to push that standard forward and bring more and more eyes to the sport?
I mean, it's everything. I mean, you probably see the t-shirts these days. Everyone watches women's sports,
Sure.
It's one of those things that we want to keep building, not just within our community, but even bigger than that. I mean, the NOSL spans all the way, we play all the way down to Delaware. I know teams are expanding out west and everything. So we want to keep that growing. And I think Noah Tumer, who you had on the show, I want to say a few weeks ago, has done a really great job of just creating a lot of accessibility to the game. I know he's doing a lot of work with Cleveland Pro Soccer. So I think really there's nowhere to go but up from here. We're going to going to keep spreading it. And I think what's really neat about it is that we're not just getting, I think back in the day, it was a struggle to get 11 women to be on the field, but now we have a different challenge, and it's like all of our players are talented. Who are the top 11?
Exactly.
We're picking from a much higher quality pool of players than, would have been possible years ago. So we're sort of setting a precedent here, despite it being, just an amateur league that didn't exist before,
Sure.
So we really want to keep that growing.
Yeah, and speaking of growing and moving forward, what expectations do you have? What things are you trying to help continue to push forward to see more and more growth?
First of all, we want to get that championship. We had a heartbreak story the first 2 years. We're going to be back in it this year. And I think one of the things that helps draw people to our club is we're not just out there looking for the top tier quality players, even though that's obviously a perk. I think one thing that we're really doing is building a culture and trying to bring people who are committed to the club and the vision and wanting to push these things forward, like holistically. I know a lot of my teammates, work in healthcare, some do volunteering. Almost everyone on my team coaches the youth. Sandy Finley and Mikey Schmidt, they're over with Manta, and they're growing. Everything is growing. So I think one of the big things is that every player on our team has an investment to the future of the sport.
Yeah, and what can just the average person do to continue to try to help grow women's sports as a whole? How can they, maybe they're not on the field, maybe they're not partaking specifically in sports, how can they still help that growth continue?
Sports, watch sports, but don't just watch it with the lens of it being women's sports. Watch it for the game. I mean, let's step away from soccer even, and let's consider like the Women's College World Series softball, right? Like they just started the AUSL, which is the Athletes Unlimited Softball League, backed by the MLB. So it's really cool, because the Women's College World Series has been around forever, but now you walk into a bar or a restaurant during tournament time and there's women's sports on TV. And it went from, let's even say 5-10 years ago, of listening to, people at the bar going, oh yeah, they actually throw pretty hard, they're pretty hard. Well, now people are actually keeping up with it and watching it. It's not just like I should give this a shot, but they're viewing it like as actual competition. Same thing with the growth in the WNBA and, everything that the women in the last few years have really been able to do collegiately and move forward into professionals. And I think at the local level for all of these sports, it's becoming a lot more accessible. And that opens the eyes of not just women, but, everybody.
For sure. And so my final question to you would be how, if you could give like a 30-second pitch or a 60-second pitch to someone that you're saying, hey, you have to start tuning in to women's sports. You got to start getting involved with this because guess what? It's really breaking the barriers right now. What would that look like?
It's going to be longer than 30 seconds, but I'll try to keep it concise. I would start by telling them that I myself, growing up in Copley, Ohio, was just an average soccer player, right? And as I grew up, I started, as I played in high school, I went to high school with Angela Salem, who was an outside mid for the Portland Thorns. Her mother was our high school soccer coach.
Oh, wow.
And so, when I was a freshman, Angela had just graduated, but she was coming back for summer practices. I was taking breakaways as a 14-year-old freshman from somebody who would go on to be a professional, right? Yeah. And then I played for the International Soccer Club in my later years in high school, and I got to be coached by Carrie Sarver, who went on to be an assistant coach for the New Zealand women's national team, right?
Incredible.
And yeah, I played in college. I moved down south. I joined a pickup league down in Florida, played with Madison Cox, who is a center back for the Puerto Rican national team. So, as just one person with all of these different degrees of connection, being able to turn on the TV and just see these women continue to grow the game is not just inspirational, but it should speak volumes to how accessible it really is. And I think what's really neat about this upcoming generation is that they're these like the aforementioned players, they're coaches now. They're developing the game in a way that hasn't been developed before. So tune into women's sports, because like I said before, there's nowhere to go but up. I mean, it's only getting better, faster, stronger, more competitive from here.
Well, Peyton, that was great. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kate. This is really great.
Of course.
Welcome back to the Off the Post podcast. It's now time to look at our Golden Boot race. Man, what a race it's been throughout the year. Our last update came in week 3, and about 4 weeks later, it's time to look at what we have for the Golden Boot race side of things. Lots of goals have been scored, and you take a look at the first division to begin here. Bruno Vargas continues his pace atop the men's first division alongside Nicholas Morse. Those two, 7 goals apiece. Then you've got 6, 5, and 4. Taking a look at our second division, we have a man at the helm who is on fire this season. En fuego from Akron United, it's Blake Baker. 13, count it, 13 goals for them. He has been on a tear, and I don't know if anyone's going to catch him. They'll have to try very, very hard down the back half of the year. But then you see Paxos FC, 2 guys towards the top as well. And then 7 players are tied with 5 goals, and 5 players are tied with 4 goals. Moving on to our Northwest Division and our Women's Division, this is where we get some more tightly contested races. Obviously, Reggie Johnson's towards the top for Firelands United at 7, but that's not that far ahead of Hunter Kevens from Valentis Atletico with 5, and Tyler Paulicki is in 3rd with 4 goals, right behind his teammate from Valentis Atletica. And man, you look at the other guys, a lot of Valentis Atletica on this board as they maintain their pace atop of the Northwest Division standings. And moving into our last side of things, it's no surprise, Ohio City is there with 2 players at the top for the women's division, and Peyton Burns discussed both of those 2 players, saying they were incredible and they certainly have raised the bar for the team this season. Look at the rest though, we've got players with 5 goals, 3 with 4, and then the rest are 3 and below. And as we mentioned, the men's Northwest and the women's division are tightly contested races. Lots can change down the back half of the year, but that's where we stand through week 7 for our Golden Boot race. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment here on the Off the Post podcast. Well, that's all that we have for the Off the Post podcast. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in this week as we recapped our standings, our Golden Boot race, and obviously had our great interview this week as well. If you'd like to be interviewed, if you want your team to be featured in the Off the Post podcast, as a reminder, you can just let us know in the comment section down below or direct message our social media channels at NOSL Soccer on most of them. You can check us out on all social medias and let us know if you'd like to be featured on the Off the Post podcast. Thanks so much again for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time. I'm Kate Krakus signing off. Thanks so much.